I know I'm not the only one who gets excited when I see a car chase in a movie. But if you ever see one happening for real, trust me, it feels way more intense. Sadly, car chases happen more often than we think, and they're way more fatal than you can imagine. Just in the US alone, about 40% of car chases end in someone getting hurt or even dying. Every year, around 300 people lose their lives because of these chases. But let's put the stats aside and take a look at some of the most intense car chases you'll ever see. Number 1. Florida man leads police on high-speed chase in 2 stolen squad cars. You just know things will be wild when the suspect is from Florida. The suspect in question is Xavier Cummings, 33 years old and from Volusia County. Back in 2021, the Cocoa police were called to a motel disturbance involving Xavier. While the officers were trying to figure things out, Xavier decided to bolt, jump into a cop car, and take off. It is a pity maneuver that crashes his car into the woods. But Xavier, he's not giving up that easy. When the police sergeant tries to block him with another patrol vehicle, Xavier whips out pepper spray, gets out, and sprints toward another cop's car. And luckily for him, it was unlocked. Keys in the ignition and everything. One officer tries to stop him with a taser, but to no use. He leads a high-speed chase for quite some time until officers throw down stop sticks, and it causes 3 tires on the stolen cruiser to go flat. The car slows to a crawl and finally stops. And Xavier, he just gives up, gets out of the car, and lies down on the ground. A bunch of officers surround him and take him into custody. Xavier, to no one's surprise, had some mental health issues. He'd been using crystal meth and hadn't slept in like 24 hours. The charges: armed burglary, escape, fleeing from the cops, having a firearm as a felon, stealing a firearm, stealing a motor vehicle, and driving with a suspended license. That was a grown man, but teenagers can be just as wild, or maybe a lot more. Number 2. Teenagers cause chaos. When I was 13, I was busy looking up GTA cheat codes, but apparently not kids these days. These 2 suspects, who were brothers aged 12 and 13, wanted to play GTA in real life. Seattle police got a call from a woman reporting that her car had been stolen from her when she got home after 2 boys put her at gunpoint and one of them fired a shot in the air.
5 miles an hour.
The cops were already in the neighborhood because someone had spotted these 2 crime partners walking around with a handgun. But catching them, easier said than done. It took another car theft attempt for the police to finally get on their tail. And then, the chase was on. The police were hot on their heels, and even a helicopter joined in, tracking the stolen car from above. When the chase ended, these young suspects ditched the car, threw away their guns, and tried to run. In the end, the cops caught up with them.
Down now! Get on the ground!
The 12-year-old was charged with a list of serious crimes, including first-degree robbery and illegal firearm possession. His brother faced similar charges, with the added charge of attempting to elude police. Number 3. Driver hurled out of his truck during Hollywood-style chase. This chase takes us all the way back to 2015, when the Idaho State Police pulled over 32-year-old Jose Manuel Sanchez. Sanchez, though, only stopped briefly, which was just to then whip his pickup around and smash right into the police car, trapping an officer's leg in the process. Then started the chase. At one point, the suspect loses control of his pickup, swerving dangerously close to oncoming traffic and then deviating off the road. His vehicle even rolled over, sending a tire, and Sanchez, who wasn't wearing a seatbelt, flying through the air in a cloud of dust. Still not giving up, the driver runs away from the now ruined car, but another officer follows close behind. Even when he's caught, Sanchez doesn't go down without a fight, resisting arrest with all he's got. In the end, he had to pay for his actions, which included battering an officer, eluding the police, and possession of meth. This is why he was sentenced to 15 years behind bars. Number 4. Woman driving in reverse manages to start a police chase. Now this one looks like it's straight out of a skit. A woman was driving her Ford truck in reverse, and she'd been at it for quite a while. Even when the officers arrived, she didn't stop. Maybe she just thought everyone else was driving in the wrong direction, and she was right. Who knows? So, an officer tries catching up to the woman, but she keeps driving backwards until she crashes into cable barriers. You'd think that'd stop her, but no. When the officer tries to block her in with his cruiser, she drives forward, hits the officer's car, and then zooms off. This time, she's actually driving forward. That's when the cop had to call off the chase, but this woman really wasn't a pro. She eventually crashed a few miles away and was taken to a hospital for treatment and hopefully charged for all the chaos she caused. Number 5. Lamborghini driver's fatal high-speed police chase. In the early hours of the morning on April 6, 2024, West Valley Division Patrol officers spot something you don't see every day. The driver of a Lamborghini Huracan at a red light, fast asleep behind the wheel. The moment the light turns green, cops flash their lights, sound the siren, and pull the car over. The man behind the wheel is 51-year-old Elliot Dugan. After a bit of back and forth, one of the officers does a quick check on Elliot and the car.
How's it going, man?
Good.
You have a driver's license on you? And registration for your vehicle?
And guess what? Elliot's wanted for multiple felonies, and the Lamborghini, yeah, it's reported stolen. Despite the officer's efforts to get him out of the car, Elliot refused to cooperate.
It is stolen.
Hey, stop!
After a bit of arguing, he drove away. He was going more than 110 miles per hour, so it's no surprise that he lost control of the Lamborghini, smashed it, and hit several trees along the way. After driving for just 18 seconds, his vehicle crashed, and a group spent about 2.5 minutes searching for his body. They found him several hundred feet away on a nearby sidewalk. The crash split the Lamborghini into 2 parts, and Elliot was also declared dead at the scene. What a sad way to die. Number 6. Man starts a chase after hurting a doctor. And then there's the chase that started when the Indian River County Sheriff's Office got a tip about a suspect linked to the stabbing of a doctor in Jupiter. The suspect was none other than 28-year-old Nicholas David Parchesco. Thanks to his high speed, Nicholas was quickly spotted, and cops began to follow him on the ground and by helicopter. His car can be seen zooming in and out of traffic and even reaching speeds of more than 120 miles per hour at some points. A deputy lays out spike strips, popping Parchesco's tires and disabling his car. Soon enough, the deputies surround him and arrest him at gunpoint. After this, he was taken to the Indian River County Jail, with his bond set at $100,000 for fleeing cops. This chase is the living proof of why teamwork makes the dream work. Number 7. The family of thieves who led cops in a car chase. In Glendale, Wisconsin, 4 people were arrested after a police chase through Estabrook Park on Monday afternoon, August 29th, 2022. So, why did the chase start? The white Volkswagen involved was stolen during a home invasion and armed robbery in Milwaukee. The driver, likely the mother, refused to stop for a traffic stop.
Your client, this man, plates Adam Mary Edward the sixth.
The suspects were a 35-year-old woman, an 18-year-old woman, a 16-year-old boy, and a 14-year-old boy. Officers ended the pursuit using a pity maneuver and having to force the car to stop. All four were arrested, but not before the woman was shouting about her kids being harmed.
114 away for we doing mutual aid.
Mom of the Year right here. I really do hope she was charged for more than just attempting to flee and endangering lives. Number 8. Man endangers multiple lives and stops only after he crashes into a pole. A female resident of Dayton, Ohio, called the cops frantically, telling them that her boyfriend and a friend were involved in a shooting. While one of them, most likely 57-year-old William Gerald Hefner, ran away in a truck, the victim, 48-year-old Matthew Smith, ran up to someone's door asking for help because he got shot on the upper left side of his abdomen. The guy was taken to Miami Valley Hospital, where he passed away from his injuries, and then came the chase after the cops spotted Hefner's car on camera. Surprisingly enough, the car wasn't the same as described before. He managed to make some modifications overnight. Imagine trying to hide from the police by driving around in a huge red pickup. Great idea, Hefner. When a cop decided to tail the truck, Hefner sped off. The truck can be seen dashing past stop signs and red lights, almost hitting a few cars along the way. Hefner even got off the road and drove over lawns and through green spaces while trying to shake off the police car behind him. It's not long after that the chase hit speeds topping 100 miles per hour. The high-speed chase ended when Hefner made a sharp turn too wide and crashed into a pole. After the crash, police were able to arrest Hefner. For his actions, Hefner faced 2 counts of murder, 3 counts of felonious assault, and 1 count each for tampering with evidence and failing to obey a police officer's command, all tied to the death of 48-year-old Matthew Smith. Hefner was put behind bars at the Montgomery County Jail with bail set at $1 million. If the court finds him guilty on all counts, Hefner is looking at a life sentence with an extra 20 to 40 years possibly added on. Deserved honestly. Number 9. The car chase that saved a life. In Riverdale, Utah, right on New Year's Eve, the police got a heads up about a teenager driving under the influence. The person who reported this incident had all the details ready, from the car's license plate to its speed, and even the direction it was heading in. He pointed out that the driver, 19-year-old Carter Dean Edelman, wasn't alone. He had 3 other teenagers tagging along for the ride. When deputies spotted the car fitting the description, they attempted to pull it over. But instead of stopping, Carter made a run for it. The chase got pretty intense.
I have his live location if he tries to pull away.
Okay.
He's speeding up. He's running. He's 70 miles an hour. 1950 west.
The officers tried to block it in, but the car smashed into 2 police cars in its path, and it even reached speeds that topped 100 miles per hour during this chase. Officers ended up firing shots at the car to bring the pursuit to a stop, especially after it crashed into the second police vehicle. Miraculously, no one was seriously hurt, not the officers nor the 2 passengers in the car. After all that commotion, Edelman was arrested and taken to the Weber County Jail. He's facing a whole list of charges, including DUI, reckless driving, aggravated assault, and unlawful detention, among many others. Oh, and he wasn't held on bail. A smart judge. Finally. Number 10. Crazy ex ramming into his girlfriend's car starts a pursuit. You think your ex is crazy? Meet this one. Lufkin police received a distress call from a woman reporting that her ex, 39-year-old Daniel Ramirez Huerta, was threatening her. While she was on the phone with dispatch, Huerta started to ram her car with his Toyota Corolla and started to wave a hammer out the window to threaten her. And he didn't just stop there. Even after the officers were right behind him, he continued to slam into the other car. That was until the cops finally caught up and intercepted his car. Huerta was charged with aggravated assault with a motor vehicle, but honestly it sounds more like an attempted murder to me. But the next chase you're about to see is unlike any other. Number 11, murder suspect leads high-speed chase.
Looks like he's gonna run, guys. He's on the shoulder.
The man at the center of this chase was a suspect wanted for murdering his girlfriend, leaving her body in the trunk of a burning car in North Dakota and setting their home on fire.
All the traffic stopped for the intersection. He just blew the light. Continue.
The suspect in question was Kamari Seed Kennedy, 32, who was also wanted for other federal and state parole violations. Undercover agents spotted Kennedy on August 30th, 2021, and didn't waste a second in requesting a traffic stop. They followed him until a sergeant finally took over.
Dispatch southbound Utica coming up the Masonic. He is now driving down the sidewalk.
Driving on the sidewalk with southbound Utica Masonic.
He turned his lights on and even the sirens, but this guy tried to escape along the shoulder. Kennedy even reached speeds of 100 miles per hour at some points while trying to escape in fairly heavy traffic. To no one's surprise, our suspect was driving without a care in the world, cutting through a sidewalk on a busy street, speeding through a gas station, and very narrowly avoiding a bus at a busy intersection. Like all other reckless souls, his was only sated after the officers performed a maneuver to stop his vehicle, causing it to crash, and took him into custody. Number 12. Adrenaline-fueled teens. Go on a robbery spree leading to a high-speed chase. On December 19th, 2023, just before the clock struck 9, Seattle's police dispatch was flooded with calls about a trio of young guys, barely out of their teens, causing big trouble. They were out in a gray SUV, not just driving, but attempting not one, not two, but 3 carjackings and even a robbery. First up, they tried their luck with a 38-year-old guy, but he locked his car and dashed off to safety at a nearby business. Then, they set their sights on a 37-year-old woman, but she also refuses to leave her car, instead driving off to a secure spot to call the cops. Still, these 3 idiots somehow managed to swipe 2 cell phones and some keys, but the police soon spot their SUV and give chase. Cops eventually managed to corner the suspects on a bridge, thanks to some spike strips that brought the SUV to a halt. The suspects, still not ready to get arrested, make a run for it on foot. However, their freedom is short-lived. After a short foot chase, the cops get a hold of all 3 of them, and as it turns out, the SUV they were in, stolen as well. 2 of them are just 14, and the other is 16. They were arrested for robbery, having a stolen vehicle, and trying to escape the police. Honestly, I have to say, if you're old enough to be a carjacker, you're old enough for the big jail. Number 13. Suspect crashes stolen Amazon truck into cars. Then, this straight out of a movie chase took place in the city of Riverside on July 25th, 2022. The local Public Safety Communications Center was getting calls about 2 break-ins at a mobile home park. The same guy, Quinton Jarnell Larks, 32 from Las Vegas, had broken into the homes and carjacked an Amazon van right from the driver. The cops talked to the Amazon driver and used the van's GPS to track it down. At the same time, more calls were flooding in about the stolen van crashing into cars parked. The police caught sight of the van and chased it, but the driver didn't stop for anyone. He rammed the van into 3 cars with people in them on the freeway. It sounds like a miracle, but thankfully, no one was seriously hurt. Eventually, the van couldn't go any further as the cops had disabled it, and Larks tried to make a run for it across the freeway. But the freeway's barrier was too much for him, and the police caught up, arresting him. Later on, he was taken to the Robert Presley Detention Center for charges of attempted murder, breaking into a home, carjacking, assaulting with a deadly weapon, dangerously evading the police, and being suspected of driving under the influence of drugs causing harm. His bail is set at $1 million. Number 14. Chase and arrest of a drive-by shooting suspect. We go to Seattle, Washington on November 22nd, 2023, where the cops are on the tail of a car, not just any car, but one caught up in some serious trouble. Around 2 p.m., this particular vehicle popped onto the radar, suspected of involvement in a drive-by shooting. This car was also reported stolen and linked to a burglary. So the officers try to pull the car over, spotting their chance. But does the driver stop? Nope. Instead, he leads the cops on a high-speed chase through the city. With a pit maneuver, the cops bring the car to a halt. The 32-year-old man was taken into custody, and a woman who was along for the ride was questioned and let go. The cops also found 3 dogs and multiple firearms in the car. So the man is now facing charges of drive-by shooting, evading the police, and possession of a stolen vehicle. Number 15. A druggie causes a car chase. An Arkansas State Police trooper initiated a traffic stop on a car driven by 42-year-old Christopher Monroe, who was already wanted for earlier drug trafficking charges and a warrant for evading in a motor vehicle as well. The cops tried to trap his car, but he managed to escape, starting the chase. Early in the chase, an officer attempted a pit maneuver but slid into a concrete barrier instead. Monroe, with police chasing close behind, sped across the Arkansas River at around 120 miles per hour. He then made a U-turn only a few blocks before police hit his truck from behind, causing it to roll. The impact was so strong that the police car nearly flipped as well. Monroe was eventually surrounded and pulled from the wreckage by officers. Cops found multiple drugs, a handgun, and $8,612 in cash in Monroe's car. He was charged with trafficking, possession, felony fleeing, assaulting law enforcement, and criminal mischief. Number 16. Chase ends with a crash. On June 27, 2023, in the afternoon, the Arkansas State Police got a call about a silver car zooming past everyone on the highway. The chief sees it whizzing by and tries to catch up. Sergeant Preston speeds after this silver car, now dodging traffic on the shoulder at a wild 100 miles per hour. When Preston turns on his lights and siren, the driver, later identified as Casey Register, doesn't even flinch. He keeps barreling down the shoulder, leading to a full-on chase. As they zoom past an on-ramp, Preston pulls a tactical vehicle intervention maneuver to stop Register, causing his car to spin out and crash into a guardrail. The car bounces off the rail, smacks into the side of Preston's car, and finally comes to a stop in the middle of the highway. And just like that, Register is in cuffs. While checking out the car, officers find a little bottle of what seems to be THC oil on the passenger seat and a vape pipe on the driver's seat. After a quick health check, Register was off to jail, facing a hefty charge for trying to outrun the cops, along with a couple of other charges for reckless driving and dodgy overtaking. Number 17. Why some juveniles need to be treated as adults in the system. On June 15th, a state trooper attempted to stop a car that was reported stolen from Kent County, but the driver had other plans and led a high-speed chase. This caused the Michigan State Police to send backup. Another cruiser with 2 troopers on board joined the chase. However, things took a turn when the fleeing car collided with the second police car at an intersection. The crash was severe, leaving both cars badly damaged. The impact was so bad that the two troopers, along with the two individuals in the stolen car, needed to be rushed to the hospital due to serious injuries. Thankfully, the troopers could leave the hospital not too long after. It's a relief to know they're okay and made it home safely. Number 18. The carjacking suspect ends up with a really long list of charges. On May 20th, 2022, officers responded to an armed robbery where a man stole a vehicle at gunpoint from a 73-year-old woman. The suspect was none other than 40-year-old Justin Venegas. When officers spotted Venegas getting into a vehicle and driving away, the LVMPD air unit was called in to assist in tracking him.
George 2, I'm not leaving like me.
It's going to be a white Chevy Avalanche. He just forced the driver out. I got one unit on my pursuit.
But he still refused to pull over. This guy was going crazy, driving at 100 miles per hour through really heavy traffic. At one point, he even caused a cop car to crash into him. That's not all. Officers attempted a PT maneuver, but the suspect fired shots at them. An officer returned fire, hitting the back of his vehicle. He then tried to carjack another vehicle at gunpoint.
His car's running. He's got a gun pointed out at the victim here. It is firing into the victim vehicle. We have to get him stopped.
Fired at the driver, drove into a busy grocery store parking lot, attempted another carjacking but failed, and then drove at the officers who were ordering him to stop.
Pulling into the Smith's parking lot, possibly to carjack somebody else. He's forcing some.
Even though multiple shots were fired at him, he wasn't injured. He even intentionally crashed head-on into a K9 vehicle. His vehicle was disabled, and officers took him into custody without further incident.
That steps out and shuts the chamber. You see him turn a dial, and then all of a sudden...
After being treated at the hospital, Venegas was booked into the Clark County Detention Center on multiple charges, including attempted murder, battery with a deadly weapon, robbery, and felony evading. Number 19. Florida woman flips van in a wild police chase. Then there's Sarah Yerman, who took off when officers tried to pull her over for driving a stolen car.
Is anybody going to be able to get up and confirm it? I'll be in position with it.
She can be seen from a helicopter sometime later, making a U-turn and eventually rolling over and crashing. But it wasn't just a stolen vehicle she was hiding. Her car was packed with prescription pills and heroin. Yerman got injured in the crash, but once she's released from the hospital, she'll be facing charges for attempting to flee from cops and drug-related offenses. Number 20. A chase that lasted several neighborhoods. Last, but not least, the next car chase takes us to Fayette County. A silver Honda Civic, earlier hijacked at gunpoint, had caught the cops' attention. One officer was ready to make a felony stop, especially with a group of deputies nearby for backup. But as you might expect, it kicked off a high-speed chase. Leading the cops was Sergeant Akin, who kept close to the car as it swerved and smashed into road signs, mailboxes, and even another car. In the end, the driver jumped out with a weapon in hand. But realizing he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered, he chose to give up. Turns out this kid, just 14, is now looking at a laundry list of charges. We're talking about theft, trying to outrun the law, having a gun while doing something illegal, and even having a gun when he's way too young for it. And that's about all. Every single one of the officers involved in these chases deserves a standing ovation. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button below for more content like this. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload.